After working with over 300 sports coaches across a dozen different sports, I've boiled down a simple 4-step content framework for sports coaches to grow their brand online so that way they can actually attract athletes to come to their online coaching program. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through this exact framework so that way you can know exactly what you need to be posting and how much of it and everything in between. So if this is your first time here, my name is Nick. I run an online consulting company helping sports coaches actually grow their brand online so that way they can train more athletes, create more impact, make more money, and create the life that they actually want through online sports coaching. I teach the frameworks and principles that I used in my own online coaching business where I scaled it from zero to over $250,000, worked with over 250 athletes in literally my first year. And if you want to learn more about how I can help you, you can go ahead and check the link in the description. But without further ado, let's dive right in. So the first step in the 4-step content framework is we have to understand what the actual purpose of the content is, okay? And if you've ever watched any of my videos before, I talk a lot about this concept, right? And we need to think about our content as a funnel. You see, most people when they're going, trying to make content or when they're trying to actually go online, they don't understand that we're trying to bring people down because people do business with people they know, like, and trust, okay? So you're watching this video right now. If this is your first time watching, you may barely know who I am, so you probably don't like me yet, you probably don't trust me. But as you watch more of my content, that trust is going to be built up over time. And so strategically, we need to make content for people at different stages of awareness, okay? So the first thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to get somebody's attention, okay? And think about it like this. You could be the best coach in the entire world. Let's say you are the best pitching coach in the entire world. But if nobody knows who you are, does it really matter? You're really not going to be able to impact nearly the amount of athletes that you want to work with, right? You might be sitting there watching people online right now where you're like, dude, I'm a way better coach than that guy, but he's crushing it online. It's because he or her or whoever you are knows how to get attention, right? And so the first thing that we need to understand is that one of the main purposes of content is that we're trying to get somebody's attention, okay? And you can do that obviously, and I'll walk you through how we can do that later on in this video. The second thing that we need to do is we need to build trust, okay? And so when it comes to building trust, there are a ton of different ways that we can do that. But we just need to understand that once we have somebody's attention, then we need to win their trust, right? Maybe you saw, for me, maybe this is the first time you've ever seen me, you saw me through YouTube. Maybe you saw one of my ads on Instagram. Maybe you heard about me from one of my clients or one of your friends, right? So now I got your attention somehow. Then you come to this video and you learn from me and I provide you value up front so that way you'll trust me. Right? So that's an example of how I can actually build trust with you, the viewer who's watching this, right? If you're an actual coach trying to coach athletes online, this is by creating, valuable content, letting people get to know you, sharing your personal story, and actually building that connection. That's really what we're trying to do here, right? Because like I said, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so building that know, like, and trust factor in the middle of people who we already have the attention of, that is vital, okay? Then this third thing, I made it a little bit too small, so I'm gonna write it right here. Okay, conversion, okay? The third type, or the third purpose of your content is to convert, okay? We need to think about, we are trying to get people's attention to come to our social media pages and just know who we are, right? We get their attention with some content, then we build trust with the stuff that's on our page, and then we can make a direct ask to actually ask them to join our program, right? Just like in this video, if you want to learn more about how you can work with me directly inside of my program, you can check out the link in the description, okay? So that is an example of how you can actually ask people to do something if they want to learn more about how they can work with you. But we cannot make this content, we cannot make conversion-based content until we have attention and we've already built up their trust. one of the biggest mistakes I see from people inside my program is they come in and they think that they're only trying to make conversion-based content. So all they do is they say, DM me this and DM me this and DM me this. It's like, bro, number one, nobody knows who you are. If they do, they don't trust you. Why are they going to reach out and try and have a conversation with you and figure out how they can work with you, right? It doesn't make any sense, okay? So those are the first three things we need to understand, is that each piece of content needs to be designed to have one specific purpose, okay? We're either trying to get their attention, we're either trying to build their trust, or we're trying to convert them, okay? So once we understand this piece of content needs to be one of those three things, then we can go into the content pillars. Okay, and really what the content pillars are we're trying to either get their attention, right, build their trust, or convert. Then we need to think about what overarching category of content does this build into, or does this fit into, right? And really those three things, the first one is going to be results. Okay? Results are going to be number one. The reason why results are going to be number one is if you cannot show people that you have helped people just like them get to where they want to go, there's going to be much less trust there. They're probably not even going to give you the time of day. They're probably, let's say you make a piece of content that is educational or valuable or, shows them how they can do something on social media. They're probably not going to see it as valuable to them because it's not proven to work with anybody who looks just like them, right? So we need to see results on our social media pages, and there's a ton of different ways that you can post results, right? The second pillar is we need to educate. Okay? We need to educate, and this doesn't necessarily mean drill videos or breakdowns or things like that, although it could. It absolutely could be. The purpose of the education, right, is let's say there are misbeliefs, right? Okay, so for example, I have a client who does football recruiting, and they actually just had literally a $12,000 day the other day, which is crazy, okay? But there are a lot of misconceptions about football recruiting. Like for example, a lot of people think oh, I'm just gonna trust the process and I'm gonna get recruited. It's like if you're a 5-star athlete, 100% trust the process, right? But if you're not a 5-star athlete, you need to do additional things and you have to know how to play the recruiting game. So they're educating them on the overall recruiting game and the fact that if you're not a 5-star, you need to learn how to play the game, right? Or for example, I have another client who is a pitching coach who actually just had a $9,000 day yesterday. At the time of recording this, today is January 10th, right? Just had a $9,000 day yesterday. And they one of their biggest things that they talk about is how Power 4 baseball is way better than mid-major baseball. And so they educate people on the differences between, what Power 4 looks like and what mid-major baseball looks like, right? So he's not even necessarily giving out drills and tips and things like that. Although to be fair, that can be good. I think it's overplayed. I think educating people on, overarching topics and themes, right, is much more important than here are 3 drills you can do, because anybody can make drill videos like that. But only you can educate based on your stories and your experiences and your unique perspectives, right? The third thing that we're gonna do is we're going to be personal. Excuse me. We're gonna be personal, okay? This is one of the biggest shifts that I see a lot of people make. Okay, because for example, you could be posting tons of results, tons of proof with your athletes. You could be very educational. But the one thing that people are going to ask, what makes you different? What makes you different? And it's 2026 at the time of recording this. In the year 2031, online coaching is going to be the thing. Everybody's going to be doing online coaching. Tons of people are going to be doing online coaching, right? What makes you different? It's going to be your own personal story. And so what you need to do is you need to build a connection with your audience by showing your own personal story. And I have clients that for example, have a wife, have kids, or a husband, whatever it is. I encourage them to share that with the world and let people know, hey, I am a real human being. Here are the struggles that I am going through, right? Because what we're trying to do here is relate to our audience. And so like if you're watching this video and you haven't left yet and you're still like interested, there's probably in some way, shape, or form like you relate to me on some level, right? There's probably some sort of common ground. Maybe we're both former athletes. Maybe we both played at a Division I school, right? Maybe we both worked a 9-to-5 job at some point, or we both love coaching. Things like that, right? There are things that we can find common ground on. And when you can find common ground with the person who's delivering the message, you build a lot more trust and you take the educational content and the results a lot more seriously, okay? So now that we know, we need to, number one, have a purpose behind the content, right? What is the goal? Are we trying to get attention? Are we trying to build trust? Or are we trying to convert the audience that we currently have? Once we know that, then we got to go, okay, are we going to do this by showing results? Are we going to do this by educating? Or are we going to do this by telling a personal story or building connection, right? Okay, the third thing that we need to think about is what is the topic? What is a topic, okay? And so a lot of people don't really understand that when you're making content on social media, the topics are probably going to be one of the most important things when it comes to actually social media growth and building trust, right? So what most coaches do is they think, what do I want to teach? Or what do I want to focus on? Emphasis on the I. What do I want to teach? What do I think these athletes need, right? And the reason why that is such a terrible mindset is it's incredibly selfish, right? It's incredibly selfish. So for example, if my client who does back to the football recruiting, right? If all what he really cares about is showing them like the tactics of like how to reach out to coaches and different things like that, right? Well, when he's made content like that, it just hasn't performed nearly as well because the topic is not what these people actually want to learn. And so in order to give them what they need, he's got to give them what they want first, right? He's got to give them what they want first. And what they want is they want to hear like, yeah, you can go D1. You just need to learn how to reach out to these coaches. And like, here are the things that you need to do if you're not a 5-star recruit, right? So not what do I want to teach? We want to ask, what does my audience want? Okay? What does my audience want? So I literally was just on a call with somebody yesterday and he was like, yeah, I mean, I make great content, but I'm really not getting any views. And he pulls up we pull up his Instagram and I'm like, dude, that's why, because you're making content that you like. You're making content in a way that you want it. And like, while that's great, I think you should make your own personal spin on things. If you're trying to get the attention, if you're trying to win the trust of people, and especially athletes, you can't think from your own coach brain, right? Because you have so much context and experience and knowledge that these athletes don't have, that these parents don't have. So you need to meet them where they are, give them what they want, win their trust, and then when they join your program, that is when you can actually start to educate them on a much deeper level, right? But if we try and lead with the boring stuff that you think is, oh, everybody needs these fundamental boring things, like this is what leads to results. It's like, yeah, absolutely, but like nobody's gonna listen to you because they don't wanna hear that, right? They wanna hear the sexy, flashy stuff. And now, to be clear, I know somebody out there is gonna be super skeptical and be like, see, I knew this guy was all about grabbing attention on social media and clickbait. It's like, that's not it at all. It's about being able to package your content properly and talking about the topics that your audience actually wants to learn about and presenting it to them in a way that makes sense to them, right? So instead of getting mad at everybody else for not seeing the world the way that you want them to, because of course you want everybody to see the world, or you think that your way of seeing the world is the best way. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And so if you really want to help people, you have to meet them where they're at and ask them, what does my audience want? What do they want? What do they want to see? Okay? Now, the last thing that we need to take in mind, or we need to take into account, okay? So number one, we have the purpose, right? What is the goal? Are we trying to get somebody's attention? Are we trying to build trust? Or are we trying to convert? Once we have that nailed down, then we ask ourselves, what pillar does this fall into? Are we trying to show results? Are we trying to tell a personal story? Are we trying to educate? Okay? Then we need to think about the topic. What does my audience want to see? Okay? What does my audience want to see? The fourth, once we have those first three, right? We only get to this fourth thing once we have the first three. Most people have it completely backwards, is the style, okay? And so when I mean style, is when you go on social media, you see, carousels, you see reels, you see talking heads, you see voiceovers, all those different types of things, right? It's basically just how you're packaging the information and presenting it to people. Okay, so let me give you a couple examples. I just talked about them, right? So they could be like voiceover reels, where there's like a clip of, let's say, an athlete, and if you're a baseball coach, like he's up there hitting, and you're like, yeah, watch my athlete do this, blah, 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 or it couldn't even be like a Major League Baseball player. Your face is not even there. You're just talking over the video, right? Another thing that I've seen a lot of success with is the green screen. The green screen talking head, okay? And so basically what that looks like is it's like a picture or a video or something like that, and then you have the creator, the person who's pushing the content, with their face laid over that video, and they're like, look at this thing, and they're pointing at it, right? A green screen talking head is fantastic, and I literally have a client who is making green screen talking head videos that take him a minute to make, and he's absolutely crushing it. He's actually the same one that had a $9,000 day earlier, right? I told him maybe he might even have a $50,000 month this month. I don't know. I might be gassing it, okay? Another thing that you could do is like carousels. And there are a bunch of different ways that you could do carousels. There could be like a 2-step. There could be like a 5-step. Okay? There's like a bunch of different ways to do carousels. You could do only written. You could do images. You could do a bunch of this different stuff, right? You could also do like a side-by-side. Now, I know this might be overwhelming of like all the different things that we could be doing. That's exactly why I have my coaching program. If you want to check out the link in the description. We'll show you how to do all this and more, how to actually create, market, sell, and deliver your online coaching program so that way you can actually reach more athletes, make a bigger impact, make more money, live the life that you want, right? But for those of you guys that, actually maybe have a little bit of a background on content, you'll understand that there are just a bunch of different styles that we can do, right? And so you want to think about it like, okay, I know exactly what my goal is. I know what pillar I want to use, right? I know what the topic is because I've looked at what other people are doing, or I've looked at what's worked for me in the past, and I'm going to repeat that topic because obviously it's relevant. And then I'm just going to figure out a bunch of different ways to package up that same message and same piece of information. Because here's the thing. The number one piece of advice that I can give you on social media is that once you have your core message and once you have your core ideas that you want to continue to put out into the world, you just find as many different ways to put that out into the world over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? Most people are like, they think that they have to make this crazy unique content all the time. That's not the case. I'm not saying repost all your videos, although I have seen that be a decent strategy in the past, but in 2026, it's not. Right? Reposting is not the best thing that you could do. But point being, you don't need to get super creative all the time. The way you are creative is to have one specific message and a handful of core topics that you just hit on all the time, and then mix up the style. Voiceover reels, green screen, direct talking to camera, carousels, 2-step carousels. Write it out. Right? There's a million different ways that you can do this. And obviously, if you want to learn more about how you can actually get my one-on-one help and my team and a community of over 100 coaches, you can check out the link in the description. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys got a ton of value out of this. Follow this 4-step content framework and your content's gonna suck way less. Anyway, guys, catch you guys in the next one, and peace.